Pushing Up the Sky. You listened to a read aloud of that last Monday. And again, that was a book that contained 7 Native American plays. We focused on Gluskabe and Old Man Winter. So the 3 words that we're going to look closely at today are wise, unwise, and greedy. You've probably heard these words before. This comes to you from that text, Pushing Up the Sky, the play Gluskabe and Old Man Winter. And from pages 4 and 15, we know that this is scene 1 of the play, and it's taking place in the wigwam of Grandmother Woodchuck. Now, long ago, this is a piece of text evidence, a statement right from the play. Long ago, Gluskabe lived with his grandmother Woodchuck, who was old and very wise. So that word wise means having or showing good judgment and intelligence. Grandmother Woodchuck knows many things that Gluskabe does not know. Therefore, Gluskabe trusts his grandmother's judgment, and he listens to her advice because she is so wise. So when we're talking about people who are wise, we're not just referring to intelligent. Wise also means that people make good decisions. They give good advice. And usually this happens because they have a lot of background knowledge and experiences. So when we talk about people who are wise, we often describe older people as being very wise. And you might be wondering why. Well, because they've lived longer and they've had more life experiences than people my age or even your age who are much younger and perhaps have not experienced yet. We also use the word wise to describe actions or decisions. So it is a wise decision when the county, or is it a wise decision when the county cancels school if there's a chance of inclement weather because of a hurricane? So that's another example of a wise decision, canceling school due to a hurricane. If you have an upcoming test, it is a is it a wise decision, to stay home and study instead of going somewhere with a friend? So another example of a wise decision would be staying home to study for the test. The next word we want to talk about is the word unwise, which means not having or showing good judgment and intelligence. We see that prefix there, un, which means not. Therefore, these 2 words, wise and unwise, are antonyms because they have opposite meanings. So an unwise action or decision is one that does not show good judgment or intelligence. Here's an example. It was unwise of me not to wear a sweater when I knew that it was going to be cold out. What happened? I was cold all day long. So I'm going to describe a situation to you, and I want you to make a decision. Was this wise or unwise? This is Jenna. Take a look at the photograph here. Jenna wants to go ice skating, but the ice on the pond looks a little thin in places. She decides not to skate on the pond. Is her decision wise or unwise? And why? Let's look at another example. Roger hasn't used his tree house in 3 years, and he can see that some of the wood has rotted. He decides to climb up into the tree house anyway. Is this decision wise or unwise, and why? Let's take a look at the last example. It's an interesting name, Shilpi. Shilpi has a science report due in 2 weeks. She decides to start working on it early to make sure that she does a good job. Is this decision wise or unwise? The last word that we're going to look at today is the word greedy. I know that many of you have heard this word before. Greed is a common theme found in literature. And right here we have an example from the text. So I'm going to read this to you. Just follow along. Grandson, the summer people are strange people. Each of them has one eye. They are also greedy. They do not want to share the warm weather. It will be dangerous. So I want you to think about that word greedy. And good readers, if they come to a word that maybe is unfamiliar, they really stop and slow down and try to use context clues there in the text to help them figure out the meaning of this word. So I want you to look at this sentence and figure out what are some clues that maybe could give you an idea of the meaning of the word greedy. Right. When we learn that they do not want to share, we know that that's an example of being greedy or showing greed when you want to keep something all to yourself. In this example, they didn't want to share warm weather. So we are going to play a game called Is That Person Greedy? I'm going to describe the way someone behaves, and then you will decide whether that person is greedy or not greedy and explain why you think so. Elsie has 2 oranges. She decides to peel the oranges, divide them in half, and share them evenly with 3 of her friends. Is Elsie greedy? Why or why not? Let's look at the second example. Danny's parents buy a glass of lemonade for him to share with his little brother. Before his brother has had any, Danny drinks the entire glass. Is Danny greedy? Why or why not? Let's look at the last example. Cindy's neighbor gives her $7 for raking the leaves in his yard. Cindy gives $4 to her brother because he helped. Is Cindy greedy? Why or why not? Excellent job. So that wraps up day 1. We'll see you tomorrow for day 2.